Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Tracy Cook, and I'm the online media manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Harnessing the Power of Generative AI for Effective Requirements Management. The webinar will last approximately 60 minutes, including the question and answer session at the end. Please be sure to submit your questions in advance using the questions feature of the GoToWebinar software. We will address these as best as we can at the end of the webinar. If we run out of time and we couldn't get to your questions or additional questions might come up after the event, you can always send us an email at info@modernrequirements.com. We will get you the answers as soon as possible. There is a survey that will pop up at the end of the webinar. Please take a few seconds of your time to provide your valuable feedback so we can keep improving on these webinars to suit your needs. Before I pass it over to Xian to begin, I'm going to pull up a couple of poll questions. These would appear on your screen momentarily. It would be great if everyone can select an answer to each poll. Our first poll, how familiar are you with modern requirements? And we'll just give everyone about 30 seconds or so to respond. And that's either I use modern requirements, no, not as yet. Great, thank you everyone for your responses. We're going to jump into our second poll. Our second poll, are you currently using generative AI in your requirements management practices? Please select one response.
The overwhelming majority is no, not as of yet, 96%. Very interesting.
Hi, Xian, thanks. We're going to jump
Yeah.
in quickly to our third poll. And for a third poll, how would generative AI in your day-to-day work make you feel? And you can respond directly on the polls.
Those
All right,
results are very, go ahead, sorry.
go ahead, Xian. You can see those results now.
Yeah, so the 61% cautiously optimistic, that's exciting. And 22% are saying excited because it makes work fun. I can't agree with you more.
Excellent. We have
Different.
one more poll, and then we will get to the presentation. And again, how interested are you in using an AI-driven functional prototyping tool to enhance your requirements process? Excellent. Thanks everyone for participating in that. And for that, I'll pass it over to Shihan Fernando, the VP of Sales of Modern Requirements.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. My name is Sheehan, and first I want to say thanks for joining our session today on harnessing the power of generative AI for effective requirements management. As a VP of sales here at Modern Requirements, and seeing our evolution and our growth and how the level of excitement for Copilot I've seen over the last several months is getting me really excited. And it's really exciting to see the survey results of you folks who are interested in and excited about using generative AI in your work. But before we dive in today, I wanted to share a quick story. I had a mentor, and him and I used to have these amazing conversations, and one of those conversations left a really big impact on me, and I wanted to share it with you today. And it goes to something like this. If I had $1 and I gave you $1, I'd have one less and you'd have one more. If I had an idea and I shared that idea with you, we'd both have that idea and we would have created value. So the idea that I'd like to share with you today is that time is our ultimate currency. How you choose to spend it really matters. Today, we hope to take you on a journey on how you can take the first step in leveraging generative AI to help you save time in your requirements process, improve the quality of your work, and most importantly, have fun doing it. And based on the polls, I think this is going to be a great session. For folks who are not familiar with modern requirements, we've been in the requirements management business for over 20 years. We've seen a lot of things evolve and change, and that change is rapidly increasing in this year, and I believe into next year as well. We have been a strategic and trusted partner of Microsoft over the last 13 years. In fact, we are the only natively built requirements management tool for Azure DevOps, and that relationship has evolved this year as we've been featured as a part of Microsoft's Copilot ecosystem with our Copilot for DevOps. So it's been a joint project that we've been doing over the course of the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months, and we're very excited to show it to you folks today after having shown it in a couple of other conferences. Nicole Dezen, the Chief Partner Officer and Corporate VP of Global Partner Solutions at Microsoft, recognized us as a key AI transformation partner at Microsoft Inspire earlier this year, as you can see on the slide I'm showing right now. A few weeks back, we were at Infotech Live, which was a conference focused on exponential IT. The theme of the conference was to help IT leaders build a strategy to leverage AI, and some of the speakers included were the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, Ray Kurzweil, who coined the term of singularity, and many of the other sessions were geared towards helping leaders embrace the opportunities of AI and how it can really help save time and improve accuracy. We were showcased and we had a bit of a talk where we showed Copilot for DevOps, as well as our other shiny new toy, Coldest One, as examples of practical applications of AI. As many of you folks are in the field of business analysis, you might recognize who I'm standing with here on the left-hand picture. It's Angela Wick. And in fact, Angela and our team have been collaborating on, given the fact that we have an AI tool in requirements management and she's working on best practices, we've been coming together to try to formulate the best possible way of taking advantage of this new capability, but also being true to the best practices of business analysis. So that's more news to come on that as time progresses. For the folks who haven't had experience with modern requirements in the past, and there was, I think it was like 60%, we are natively built into Azure DevOps. And so what you're seeing on the screen right now are all the capabilities that come with Azure DevOps at the top. Modern requirements adds several requirements management tools into it natively. So from an authoring and reporting standpoint, we have Word import, Smart Reports, Smart Docs. I'm going to stop there for Smart Docs for a moment. It kind of looks and feels like Word, but you can build your documentation natively in ADO with work items using Smart Docs. Version and variant management is another big element to help deal with complex projects and releases where you're trying to reuse and have different variants of your packages of work items. Project auditability. So within modern requirements, we facilitate review management, commentary sign-off, e-signature sign-off. Trace analysis, so building out trace matrices happens implicitly as you're building your documentation in Smart Docs. You have the ability to baseline. You have the ability to do 360 impact. When you have a really great trace matrix, you can highlight a work item that is going to be changing, and the tool will help you understand what the impacted items would be. We have visualizations. I'm going to highlight diagramming. It's kind of like a Visio, but smarter, where once you build a smart diagram, you can associate work items to individual objects or connectors. There's analysis where it'll tell you all the paths, if there are any broken paths. It'll even give you test cases based on your diagram. And the key part of what we're going to be looking at today is under our efficiency optimizers, which is Copilot for DevOps. We're going to be taking a deeper dive into that today, and I'm very excited about that, so I'm not going to speak too much about that. And then lastly, we have other services that we do offer between test hub reporting, MatCal, and then RecIF if you need to be moving items from one system to another. So Copilot. So Modern Requirements and Microsoft have been collaborating to develop Copilot for DevOps, like as I mentioned earlier, for several months. And when you look at Copilot and you think about what is its capability, there are actually 9 different capabilities that are going to be available in our first release, which is now available on trial. And you may have used ChatGPT to get ideas, write content, find problems with your requirements. But now imagine you don't need to leave Azure DevOps to do the same things. But the addition of ADO content, adding guardrails to help you get useful responses that drive productivity, quality, and so you have the ability to enable the ChatGPT-like elicitation, analysis, all of that natively within your Azure DevOps instance. Copilot for DevOps will help you to recommend requirements and test cases. It'll help you catch requirements that you may have otherwise missed. It'll eliminate errors through automatic quality checking using the 6C methodology. And it can even help you convert your existing requirements into different formats without all the labor of sitting back and thinking, how do I turn this into Gherkin? You can actually get Copilot for DevOps to do just that for you, saving you an immense amount of time and building a level of consistency and quality that was not previously available. The underlying theme, as you probably have noticed up until this point, is using Copilot for DevOps is going to save you time, help you be more accurate, and you'll see in a few moments how much fun it can be to elicit and get your work checked by using a generative AI tool. I wanted to share a problem statement with one of our early adopters who, and here it is, an insurance company that had its business analysts who faced a writer's block. Now, I'm sure many of us and you on this call today have been faced with that. Imagine a world where you can open up Copilot, ask it to give you some suggestions. It's going to give you a laundry list of requirements or work items that are related to your topic. And now, as opposed to trying to think of other requirements that you may have missed, you're going to have a complete list from A to Z, where now you can apply your unique knowledge, business experience, expertise, and curate down what are the most important, and then take those, add them into your backlog, have the appropriate linkages, and edit them so that it fits your business use more accurately and more specific to your business application. In summary, the benefits that you'll see by using Copilot for DevOps is to jumpstart your elicitation. You'll be able to do the fun part of your job. We're applying your experience and your knowledge to curate down from a larger list of requirements to being more specific and massaging and curating it to what you need. You'll be more productive because you're going to save a lot of time. And lastly, the most fun part is that awe feeling where Copilot will show you something or give you a recommendation that you may never have thought about. So with that being said, we do have a 30-day trial. And so if you're new to our webinars or Modern Requirements, we offer a 30-day trial at no cost or obligation. The link will be dropped in the chat for everyone, or you can scan this QR code. Throughout this webinar, you'll get a better sense of some of the awesome features and capabilities of Modern Requirements for DevOps, and specifically Copilot for DevOps. And if you're interested, please give it a shot, reach out to me directly, and we would love to have a chat with you. And that being said, without further ado, I want to turn it over to Asif Sharif, our Chief Technologist, to walk you through Copilot for DevOps.
All right, thank you, Shihan. Hey, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, or perhaps good evening if you're joining from the other side of the globe. So artificial intelligence obviously has been the buzzword over the last year or so. It's taken a major advancement of late. What we have been doing with Microsoft for the last 3-4 months is we've been working on Copilot for DevOps. And you will see the power it gives you as a business analyst, as a product owner, as a tester, and even as a compliance engineer. We will then take a look at Codeless One, which is the rapid prototyping, functional prototyping application, where you can build rich applications in minutes. So you can build an application with multiple portals in in an hour, maybe two, through multiple iterations. So we'll get into that later on. But to begin with, let's take a look at Copilot. So imagine I'm doing requirements on security, and then I can go ahead and I can say I want to define some features, and I want to define details on features. So I'll create a feature work item. So you can of course create your information manually. But what if you wanted to need assistance? So what would you do in user management? So you might come up with add user, edit user, delete user, give rights, blah, blah, blah. But it would take time and you may miss certain things. So what you may do is you might simply call Copilot, choose elicit, identify that you're interested in identifying requirements given the user management work item. Of course, I did not give it a description or acceptance criteria, but that's fine. We'll just take this and we'll say, give me a whole bunch of these. And so Copilot for DevOps goes to work and comes up with a series of recommendations. These are the recommendations. Now, surely you and I and a few others could have sat down and come up with all of these, but now we don't have to wait. We can get a pretty good list to begin with. Of course, we can add to it later on. And in fact, when you select one of the requirements, it'll actually give you the description and acceptance criteria for it. And likewise, we can continue, or we can just select all of them and choose the ones we actually want to keep and ignore the rest. So let's take these two for now, and we will go ahead and create the work item. So we'll create these two work items and then link it with a parent-child relationship with the user management feature that I had defined earlier. Okay. So now let's go into, if you look at the user registration work item, you see your description, you see the acceptance criteria, and now you can modify it. This is just a good starting point. You see, Copilot through Microsoft and OpenAI has access to a world of knowledge. And that knowledge is now available at your fingertips within Azure DevOps, right? How wonderful and powerful is that, right? I mean, in just doing what we just did, we probably saved half an hour. And it took us 2 minutes. Now, once you modify this and make it your own, you'll get rid of this tag, right? Because this tag is saying this particular requirement is compliments of Copilot for DevOps. Then what we might do is we might go to this user registration, and we will go and ask it to define test cases for us. And it will go and create test or identify test scenarios first. Again, I've told it minimal, but I could say I want a whole bunch more. And then for any given test case, if you select it, it will give you the test steps. Okay. And so you create all your test cases for you. And if you like this, you simply go ahead and you publish it and have it linked to user registration requirement or user story with a tested by link type. Because obviously that's the right link type, but the system is smart enough to recommend the appropriate link type for you. And now you have the test cases which are linked to user requirements or user registration rather. Okay. So in this manner, not only can you create requirements and features and user stories and risk and hazard and mitigation, any work item type you have, given the right context, Copilot will make the right recommendations for you. Now, obviously, just this process through either where you're refining your requirements or you're decomposing it or just doing some brainstorming activity you'll find this to not only save you a ton of time, but it'll make your requirements better, and you'll be happier in the process. Now, let's say we want to analyze. So I want to look at the user registration requirement and have Copilot perform the 6C quality analysis on my requirement, the description, and the acceptance criteria. Okay. So it's actually looking at how clear is it concise, is it complete, consistent, is it correct, is it concrete? And it's got an opinion about a couple of these, where it's telling us how we might improve it. Okay. Right. So what you can do is, as you write your requirements, you can go to Copilot analysis and have it make recommendations as to how you can make it better. So if there's ambiguities, if there are contradictions and so on, it will identify those for you. And then you can choose whether you need to do something with it or not. Let's take a look at another use case. You can translate. So if you want to look at this requirement, say in German, you can have the requirements translated, and then you can replace the content with German text. Apparently, I've been told by German speakers that this translation is actually better than Google Translate. Similarly, we could go and we could say that the format of the requirement I have, I want to change it to the use case format. So it will actually repurpose the content into a use case format, or vice versa. And of course, at times you'll find that having a use case format might be more readable. It's the same information, but it is a lot more readable. In fact, what is even more readable, at least for me, is converting to Gherkin. So I could take my requirement and I could have it repurposed to Gherkin format. And Gherkin is really given when then format. So it's converted this into multiple Gherkin scenarios. Right? So if your developers are using, say, Cucumber-based unit testing or test generation, then you need the Gherkin format. And so the system did that for you at a blink of an eye. And so on and so forth. So there are several function points where you could just write the title and have the system elaborate for you. And it'll suggest a detailed description, even suggest acceptance criteria where you have written the title yourself. Okay. Now, all of this is our first release of Copilot. Oh yeah, you might be wondering, where is Copilot available? So Copilot within Azure DevOps is available within version package management, within the backlog view, the query view, the smart docs view. It is also available within the work item detail window. So it's available in many places, and it's coming to more places very soon. One of our new capabilities that we're working, so we're continuing to work with Microsoft on a couple of tracks. And so one of the things that we are going to be coming out with, so I'll give you a preview of something I'm very excited about. You see, these 9 function points are well defined. They have a very clear purpose to them. And we are continuing to enhance all of these in V2 to be coming out in the next 3 months. But it will also release the dynamic prompt. Now, what is dynamic prompt? So dynamic prompt gives you the ability to give it some data context, and we can give it some. Sorry, let me do this again. Just give me 1 second. Just open any one of them. So in this thing, what we're doing is you can give it some context of data, and then you can give it a prompt. So the prompt I'm giving it, this is sort of, you can write your own prompts here, okay? So the prompt you can give it, I'm saying, I'm defining requirements for customer management. Which requirements are missing from the list below? Now, the list below is we're referring to customer management requirements, okay? And by asking it, it will go get the data for the requirements you've defined for customer management, and then it'll tell you you're missing all of these. Okay. So these are the ones that are missing, because if you go into my query, if I go to the query on customer management, these are the requirements I had written. And by running this dynamic prompt, it's actually telling me all of these are the other ones you might be missing.
So Asif, Sheehan here, a quick question. So
yes.
If you had a project that was already in flight and you had several requirements that are already defined, and now all of a sudden you have Copilot in your hands, you can use dynamic prompt to, guess, fact check your current requirements to see if it's a fulsome list, and this will show you the gaps. Is that what we're looking at?
Precisely.
Brilliant.
And in fact, another example of that is, let's say you're doing requirements for security with regards to ISO 9001. So you could actually give it a prompt saying, looking at this, the result of this query, tell me, is the result consistent with the needs of ISO 9001 clauses 1 through 6? Or let's say you have two lists. You have a list for your system features and customer requirements, and you want dynamic prompt to match and find which ones are covered by which feature and which of the user requirements are missing from the current system. Then it will go and actually do that for you. So the dynamic prompt is obviously a lot more intelligent, and the world of possibilities in there is pretty wide.
Asif, I'm hoping we can also show this group how Copilot could be called from FAQ as well to help with their elicitation process.
Good one. So so one of the capabilities we have in the system is you can go ahead and you can say, you know what, if I'm doing requirements on security, I'm going to create a security FAQ, and Modern Requirements has 155 questions that are pre-built. And so you can answer it, and in answering it, you create your requirements. Okay. But what if we don't have a list for you? What if you need questions for elicitation on different topics? So in this case, you basically go to Copilot, you give it a specific topic. Your topic can be as broad or specific as you like, and you ask it to get the data for you. And it's come up with a whole bunch of questions that you might want to answer as part of doing your requirements elicitation. And in fact, if you go here, what you will find is that it actually will give you a suggested answer. Okay, so this way you can actually pick up your questions and deal with those things as need be. All right, and of course, likewise, you can do that on any given topic, and you'll be surprised with the types of questions it comes up with, which can really help you in your elicitation process. So that's how Copilot works, and we continue to do a lot of exciting work. But I think fundamentally the whole idea is that AI can be a great asset for you guys. In fact, there was in the survey, one of the options was, are you excited about it? And a lot of people are excited. Some are cautiously excited, but few people nevertheless said that they're scared that it will take over the world. And of course, we wanted to sort of put it in some exciting terms. So we put the option that we are scared because it will take over the world. The one thing is for certain, and I heard somebody say this, and I think this was said very well. The people, the product owners and the business analysts that use, so AI will not take over the BA's job. This is just giving you a starting point. So it'll make you more efficient, but it's not taking away your job. However, what they said was BAs that use AI will become extremely valuable over those who don't know how to use AI, right? So it's definitely a skill you want to adopt. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to talking about Codeless1. Now, Codeless1 is a rapid prototyping tool powered by AI. And the whole idea is that you can take your ideas and turn it into a functional model extremely quickly. In fact, from within minutes, you can have your first iteration complete. In one of the things many years ago, when I was young and smart, I used to be a business analyst. And I remember that when I spoke to people as to what they want, they had some vague ideas of what they wanted. But inevitably, once we showed them the product, they understood what it is that they don't want, or perhaps something slightly different is what they want. So it's often hard to know what you really want. And if you can build a prototype quickly, present it to them, and not just a pretty picture, but a functioning model, it changes the game. In fact, think of the tagline, use it before you build it. So we will be doing a webinar on October the 25th. It is being planned with Modern Analyst on how to use Codeless1 for prototyping and such. So please join us if this is a topic of interest. But you might be thinking, what kind of prototypes can you create? So let me give you a bit of a preview on it. So the application you can create with this prototype, which is a functional application, is you would have things like you can manage, in this example, you can manage your accounts. Okay, so this particular function prototype we've created has a sales portal in it, a trial management portal, a demo training management portal, and a feedback management portal. Okay? So these four portals constitutes the super app with a common database underlying it. And so you can build applications that are functionally rich and look beautiful. They work like a charm. And all of that is done in a matter of minutes to hours. And the whole idea is you want to build something, iterate, fine tune, and let AI do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. There are a variety of different types of views that you can work with, like calendar views and so on and so forth. You've got Kanban views, so you can drag and drop things, and your applications would have this automatically. You can have things like a split view of how you can manage data. You can define business rules on how who has access to what data or what records as well. You can also do workflow management, as in onboarding this or that, and so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of capabilities, all from a no-code perspective, powered by AI. Okay, and then again, part of this whole exercise is to have your dashboards that you get automatically using a bunch of widgets that you can use to create your dashboards. So when people are interfacing with a codeless one app, they're getting a really deep sense of what the application you want to build. All right, and now you can start to really, they can start to articulate to you that no, I don't want it like this, I want it like that. Or can you do this for me? And then 5 minutes later, they have a new iteration where they have that additional functionality, right? You can even do inline editing, where you can say that the menu I have, I don't want the menu at the top, but what I do want is I want the menu on the left-hand side, like you would have in Azure DevOps. Or I want certain menu items, but not other menu items. Or I want to relabel them or whatever else. And then this simply will update the application where you can now see your menu has moved to the left, and the application continues to work as it was earlier with a completely different style. And then there is a whole bunch of other things. You can create your, you can do integrations with other systems to just show how data might flow. You can also define your own sort of preferences of what style you want to do work with, and so on and so forth. So the whole idea of this application is for you to be able to envision what people want to be doing, right? So what application you need to build eventually. So if you're interested, please join us for this detailed walkthrough of what is possible and how it might facilitate your business analysis practice. Now, with that, let's open it up for Q&A. Shan?
Yes, of course. So we have a few questions, and the first one is very, I think, accurate, and that people are probably curious. The question is, where is sourcing these requirements from? The internet? Question mark. Where is sourcing these requirements from? The internet. So it's asking, how are we getting these requirements? So ask if you want to handle that question.
Sure. So we are using OpenAI's technology, which is the underlying logic for ChatGPT, and that in turn has learned from the total knowledge that's publicly available on the internet, plus a bunch of additional private data that they've acquired for training their model. Now, so the knowledge it encompasses is phenomenal. As you might know, it's actually passed the bar exam in the US. I think there's a bunch of other exams it's ChatGPT has also passed. It's the same underlying logic and database that this is using.
The exciting part, that's a great answer, Asif. Thank you so much. And in addition to that, what you saw there at the end of the Copilot demonstration where we looked at dynamic prompting and you're using a query to look at some of your work items that are already there, is taking those into consideration as well. So it's a very exciting time to be a BA and have access to Copilot, which brings me to the next question. How can I have Copilot for DevOps available to use in my DevOps organization? I don't currently see it. Where do I install it? I'm going to answer that question. So for the asker, I'm going to reach out to you, or someone on my team is going to reach out to you today, and we're going to walk you through, how you go about getting Copilot for DevOps. The next question, ask if this one's for you. How is the AI trained, especially for specialized products and features?
Yeah, so I guess that there's two parts to it. So the one part is the specialized domain that you speak of. How specialized is it? Is it a domain where a lot of knowledge is available? So it might be specialized for me or many of people on this webinar. But is it specialized enough where there is no knowledge out in the public domain? If there is, and most topic areas have a ton of information in the public domain, then Copilot for DevOps is already smart enough to infer based on that knowledge base. On the other hand, you might also find that there are very specialized cases. So if you are building, say, a medical device, and you do a very sort of a specific type of engineering in there, and so it's really that knowledge is within the organization. So we are currently working with Microsoft to provide a facility where you can train our model. And then what we'll do is we'll merge the knowledge that's available in the master database, the world of knowledge database, with the result of your specific trained database, and merge and present the results to you. So that is something we are working on. And I think that'll be really exciting to bring that out. But of course, in most cases, you'll find the knowledge is already publicly available.
Yeah, thank you, Asif. That's a great answer. And just to add to that as well, and for the person who asked this question, one of the things in using OpenAI's API is that your information and your IP, your intellectual property, is not being learned. So learning is off. So in the situation where we look at, and what we're working towards, where we're looking at leveraging your IP or your information within your instance, and then looking at out into the broader internet, the broader database, it still keeps that separation and segregation to ensure the protection of your IP. So I just want to add that caveat. It's a question we get quite often: is how safe is my IP if I'm using Copilot? It's safe because its learning is not happening from what you're calling out to it. Okay. Next up, are there any plans on the integration of Copilot for DevOps and Atlassian products like Jira Confluence, or is it purely an extension to Azure DevOps?
So currently, it is an exclusive extension to Azure DevOps. Doing the same for Atlassian is on our roadmap, but just because of our very close relationship with Microsoft and the fact that they're working with us on the Copilot project, our preference was to start with Azure DevOps. At some point, we'll probably provide sometime early next year, I hope, a Jira Confluence extension in a similar way. And of course, by then we'll have version 3 of Copilot, and that will be even more awesome.
Okay. I had a question on, shoot, I don't see it here now, but I remember it. So the question that just came up was, do you have to buy Copilot for DevOps in an organization's DevOps, or can I buy a license for myself as a BA and use it? And to answer that question is, yeah, in fact, we have several clients who are, i.e. consultants, or they have their own organization and they're supporting a larger organization, and they've purchased a Modern Requirements license that has Copilot enabled into it for their own productivity enhancements. So yeah, if you're looking to purchase a license for yourself, reach out to our team, and I have your name, so we'll likely from our team will reach out to you, and we'll have that conversation to see what we can do to help you out. The next question is, can we have a demo of how to build a prototype from scratch? I feel that through our demo we have so far, and that person is left, so I think that we can probably move forward. Sorry, Asif.
All right, okay.
The next one is, what other module workstream are you looking into? Project management, risk management? Would be very interested to learn more about it and how to be a part of Copilot, potentially with you guys. Curious, licensing requirements as consultant. So maybe that's more of a, that one we'll take that one offline. And then the next question I have here is, what are the costs approximately? So Copilot for DevOps is currently available in our Enterprise and our Enterprise Plus editions. And so we have a couple of different ways in which we can price that out for you from an individual license perspective. You can have a perpetual license as a one-time buy or an annual subscription. But in terms of the cost of the license, we'll reach out to you directly and give you that. And if you are interested in costs, we'd love to have that conversation to understand your organization's needs. And our licensing model is very customizable, meaning that we can have you can have user licenses and floating licenses. You can have an annual subscription versus a perpetual one-time buy. So when it comes to cost, what we like to do is customize that solution to make the most sense, both from a commercial perspective, but also the right number of licenses and capabilities that your organization needs. The next question I have here is, will the presentation and recording be available post-webinar? And the answer to that is yes. And the next question is, how about privacy? I'm working for customers with high security data. So you want to comment a little bit on privacy and high security data?
Yeah, sure. So we have a blog that's been published that outlines in detail the whole privacy consideration there. But in short, three things are happening. One, the data is encrypted in transit, and the data is not stored. Secondly, the data is not used for training. So we can provide you various privacy information, both from Microsoft and OpenAI, because they are the underlying services provider to us. And also from our product perspective, we are SOC 2 compliant, and this year will be ISO 9001 compliant as well. So we take security very seriously. And I believe even the government organizations have now been given permission to use the OpenAI API. And so many of our clients are government organizations. So hopefully that will give you some certainty of your security concerns.
Brilliant, thank you. I have another question here. It's an interesting one. It says, I saw that Coldus 1, what was presented here in a few minutes, looked like a CRM system. How customized can it be in order to present functional prototype for our stakeholders?
Absolutely, that was just an example. So if you go to, if you create an app, right? So if you want to create an app, you basically go say new app, you give it a name of the application you want to build. So if you want to do project onboarding, you give it a name, you give it some description, and it does an analysis of what would this application need in these projects and tasks and teams and milestones and documents and deadlines. So and then when you're okay with that, and of course you can go and sort of see what these things are, you can customize your information model, you can ask for more, and at some point you'll then go ahead and have it recommend the different relationships you might want to have in your application. You can tweak with this as well. And once that's done, you just create the app. It will use all of that knowledge and all other knowledge it can find on what this application should look like, what should it have and operate. It currently is building the application. It's building the front end UI, and you will see it's a beautiful UI. It builds the middleware. It will build the database structure and the data access tier. It'll build the security models, the reporting, the dashboarding modules get integrated into it. And once it has produced all the things, it will publish it. And once you publish it, you will get your application as a starting point. And now you can start using it. But what you will then do is you'll say, you know what, I would rather configure this where I want to have different information in my headings. What label do I want? What in my table, what properties do I want to show? And everything you can configure in line. And so as you're editing it, you'll just see it refresh. So the domains you can create is really whatever you can imagine. Of course, this is the basic structure of it. There's a lot of configuration you can do for workflow management, for security management, for notification, rights management, how you want to integrate with other systems that you might have. And all of that can be done. You can define different roles, and where every role has perhaps different types of privileges, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a pretty general purpose prototyping app building tool.
Yeah, so that really brings us to, part B almost to this question, Asif, and it's, is the coolest one creating a production app or a prototype? You kind of answered it, but I really want to make sure we hammer that point home.
Yeah, that's a good one. So this application is not only, it was created, but it was published. It was published to the Codeless One cloud, which is based on Azure. And you could iterate through prototyping, and you could just iterate to the point where you have your solution, and the solution looks brilliant, and people are happy with all you need to do in it. You can use it for production. In the event, and in some cases, you'll find that there are very specific requirements, and some of them cannot be met by Codeless One. And so you'll say, you know what, this did 90% of what I wanted. Here's the additional 10% we need done, right? But you got your 90% requirements validated by your users. You define your calculation rules, you define all kinds of things that are now available for your developers to say, okay, this is what I want, plus here's the additional 10%. So you will decide after the prototype is finalized, do I want to use this in production, or does this just become a reference model for my developers to use and build on?
Brilliant, thank you. Now I'm going to switch gears a little and go back to questions on Copilot for DevOps. This next question is, my company uses a combination of traditional waterfall and agile development methodologies. Does this support both equally?
It does. It does. So this project is a Scrum template, but if you go to an Agile template, it will work the same in Agile, but now it's working with different work item types and configuration. So, or you might be using with the compliance template or a product engineering template. It doesn't really matter which template you end up using.
Perfect. Next question on with respect to Copilot for DevOps. Can an organization customize the source of the requirements to comply with some statutory requirements that my company must comply with. OpenAI may not know these requirements constraints. So the question again is, can an organization customize the source of the requirements to comply with some statutory requirements that my company must comply with?
So today you cannot provide that context. Once we implement the private knowledge base support, then you can load all of those standards and specifications, and then Copilot will be able to use that to make a recommendation. However, in our next release, which will be again coming out in a couple, 3 months, you will be able to provide further context to this recommendation. Unless you currently put your context within the description of the work item. So within the description of the work item, you could say, I need this to be SOC 2 compliant. So I want document management that is SOC 2 compliant. The universal knowledge base already knows that of the SOC 2 requirements for document management, and thus will make the appropriate recommendation. So today, that's what you will do. You will go to your document management work item feature, and then put that in the description so that when it is doing the generation, it is considering not only the title, but the description which says, I want this to be SOC 2 compliant.
Brilliant. So a couple other questions around Copilot. Are there any types of requirements that Copilot for DevOps have been found not best suited for? Just to know, and then in brackets, just to know any boundaries. So the question again, Asif, is, are there any types of requirements that Copilot for DevOps have been found to not be best suited for?
So we haven't found cases as yet as to where it doesn't do well. We've actually, on the other hand, been so surprised, because when we are talking to people, I often will bring this up and ask people, give me a domain. And everybody is in a different domain. Somebody is in healthcare, somebody is life sciences, somebody is in insurance or services industry. They'll come up with stuff that makes no sense to me. But once Copilot makes its recommendation, people are like, this was amazing. So it seems to be extremely broad based. And so, yeah, unfortunately, we don't know what the boundaries are. What we do know is the boundaries are very wide.
Perfect. And this is kind of a related question. And the question goes, how can I indicate requirements for different industry, university, commercial, company, production? And I think you kind of outlined that, Asif. And depending on what you put into your description of the requirement and what you call your requirement, that's going to help. I'm trying to answer your question here for the asker. Also, one of the things that we have identified is that even if it is a little broad, your business experience and your knowledge is going to help shape what that base recommendation Copilot will provide you. It'll think of it as an uncut block or uncut diamond or unpolished diamond, where you're going to use your experience to massage whatever that broader level of requirement that's been recommended to you to fit your use case. Just to answer a couple of quick questions that I've seen here, there is a free trial available right now. If you're interested, you can jump in and play with Copilot for DevOps. There's going to be a link at the end. We're now approaching the top of the hour, just 2 minutes away. Just to answer a couple of quick questions as we go. When will this release be available? It is currently available in our sandbox. Again, it's available for trial, so you're going to be able to play with it and see from there. Next up, does this map to IIBA? That's a very interesting question. Ask, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things we did was we worked with IIBA a couple of years ago and mapped the functionality of modern requirements with the BA BOC. And so when you go to different modules like smart docs or diagramming or traceability or whatever, you'll see there's a discover option. At the bottom of the discover option, there is this snippet that maps the IIBA's, the BA Box guide to that functionality.
And with that, we have 1 minute left. And so for the questions that we weren't able to answer, we will reach out to you with an answer for them. Asif, I'd like to maybe turn it over to you to share some of your closing thoughts, unless you want me to do a couple more questions here.
You know what? We can get back to people on the remainder of the questions. I think we covered the lion's share of them. But folks, feel free to reach out if you have more questions. What I would like to end with is, folks, the world of AI is exploding, and I think it provides a lot of great opportunities for business analysts, for product owners. And what we're seeing right now is the tip of the iceberg. I think if you are at the cutting edge of it, professionally, you will be served well, because the new medium is going to be, how do I maximize my contribution to an organization? And I think a good part of that is AI. If you remember, I don't know if you're old enough, but when Google became popular, and people who are not used to searching were left behind. People who became proficient at searching were able to really take the next 3 steps where others were struggling. I think you'll find the same thing with artificial intelligence, and Copilot certainly is at the forefront of that. Modern requirements with Copilot for DevOps, with Codeless1 is leveraging your artificial intelligence to make your life easier, right? And to make you more successful. My last thought, you'll find that I've looked at studies, including one by Microsoft, that people who use AI are happier. So it's not only about being more productive, about being more efficient, right? Or creating better quality products, but it is also about your happiness. And I guarantee you, not only will you be happier, but the stakeholders you work with and you serve will be happier in the process. So I thank you all for your time and your interest. We welcome you to either go to ModernRequirements.com/try-now to try it, or if you're interested in Codeless1 and would like to get more information on it, just put in in the question area a prompt that says that we'd like more information on Codeless1. We'd be happy to send you that information, set up a demo or a trial, whatever you like. But folks, live well, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.